welcome to the show. Today we're having a conversation on love and fear with Joshua Bassett and Mark St. Cyr.
I love this episode topic of how to deal with pain and the polarity of fear versus love.
Yeah.
That was a huge revelation that I had like a week ago when I was driving home from Salt Lake City after we wrapped season 2. Is I was like basically freaking out in a good way in the car, because as soon as I got on my drive, I just realized I was like, you're always afraid. You're always afraid. And the second I realized that, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm literally living my entire life afraid. And everything I do, almost everything I do, is dictated by that fear. And that's like what is limiting me in everything that I do. So anyway, once I had that revelation, I was like, and Matt, who was driving with me, Matt Cornett, he was, I told him it at like a gas station, and because we were driving with each other, like right behind each other. And every time we stopped, he'd be like, dude, you're so right. I was like, he's like, fear is running my life. And I just thought that was an interesting revelation. So then when we talked about it, it was just perfect to start it off.
And you brought that up to me, I think, I don't remember the exact timeline. Maybe you'd just gotten back to LA, but you brought it up to me. And from the moment you mentioned it, I started looking at everything I was doing throughout the day. And I was like, oh, I'm scared of that.
Yeah,
I'm
dude.
scared of this.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think the other thing too is like, it's not just like fear. It's also fear of your lack of control, and it's also fear of pain. So really, it's just like when you look down to it, and my therapist said this to me the last time we talked, she was like, there's people can only be acting out of one of two places, either love or fear. That's it. Yeah. And when you look at life like that, you're like, oh my God, that's right. Everything traces back to, at its core, love or fear. And fear is like, again, if you're afraid of feeling like pain, you're going to do whatever it takes to like not feel that pain. Yeah. When in reality, like your fear is perpetuating the pain instead of just like experiencing it and then, or like allowing yourself to breathe. You had a great thing on Instagram on your story about pain.
Oh,
yes. What were you saying there?
So I was having a kind of, I'll call it a blue day, where my emotions were pretty low and my energies were pretty low, and I felt sad, and I couldn't really pinpoint a specific reason. It wasn't something that I could point to and be like, oh, I'm sad because of X. The whole day I was feeling down. And the reason I went on Instagram to share that is because I feel like our culture and social media culture glorifies feeling good all the time. Mm-hmm. And so when people feel bad, there's a tendency to feel like something huge is wrong with you.
That, and that they're the only one, because everyone else on Instagram is like doing great when they're not. It's all a facade.
Yeah, and I get that, like, to a point, like our Instagrams have to exist as like a brand of what we would like people to perceive and what we would like people to enjoy from us. But that's why I think the story function is so great as an opportunity to be vulnerable and honest with people about what's going on. And so I just was feeling down, and I let people know, like, hey, if you're feeling down, that's okay. Like, if it goes on for an extended period of time, and you know when it's an extended period of time for yourself, then like go get the professional help that you need. Like, and I've done that plenty of times when I'm in a funk that just lasts for too long, or the thoughts get too dark for too long, then I make that turn. But what I learned was, by sitting with the uncomfortable sadness and not judging it and not trying to push it away and force myself to be happy right away, it actually allows it to pass through faster for me than whenever I try to ignore it. And do you end up in this pattern sometimes where I'm experiencing a feeling I don't want to feel? Like I'm feeling vulnerable or out of control, or I'll say, like, as a man, sometimes I want to feel powerful, like I can handle something, and some event will happen and I have no power, no control, and it's happening in front of my girlfriend, and I feel like emasculated in like a moment, and rather than just acknowledge the fact that, hey, I have no power in this moment, and letting that be, I fight that I have no power. I get angry that I have no power. Then I get upset that I'm angry about it. Then I'm in like this terrible like loop of frustration with what is.
Yes, totally. But that's the thing, is like you know, that's the cycle, is you don't accept what is. I really have learned that recently. Like first and foremost, you have to have an attitude of acceptance towards what is. You're right. Because you will not make effective change until you've accepted what is. It's so funny. People like try and argue what is. It's like, okay, first and foremost, let's accept what's happening right now. This has happened. We can't change that. Now what do we do about it? Then you can talk about what you can do about it. And sometimes you can't. But it is tricky. The self-forgiveness is hard, because you go, you get frustrated for whatever reason. I got frustrated today on the phone. I was running late and I got really upset and I was like super stressed out. And I called my assistant and was just like really upset. And I accidentally sort of like put that anger onto him. Mm-hmm. And afterwards I was really like, damn, like I really let myself slip. And I think that there's a part of it where it's like, okay, you can acknowledge that. But it's important to recognize, okay, now I know that. I lost it for a second. I'm back now. Next time, we're not going to do that. Okay, I've accepted what happened. I've accepted that. And obviously, I talked to him. I was like, sorry, bro, I didn't mean to get upset. Yeah. But, you can do what you can do. But first and foremost, you got to accept the reality of like what happened and really just be forgiving of yourself and know that you are trying your best and like look for how to be better the next time instead of going, why was I so bad this time?
Right, because then you're not really forgiving yourself, you're judging yourself, you're attacking yourself.
Exactly.
And it compounds on itself.
Yeah, and you're also not accepting what happened. You're saying, why did I do this? It's like, okay, but you did. Now you know. Next time, just don't do it.
I to match you with this assistant story, I have a feeling like if this podcast continues, I'll probably have plenty of stories with Eileen, who's my girlfriend. But I notice that if I'm having a moment where I'm upset or easily annoyed or easily triggered by Eileen, it's because there's something happening with me that's like not at peace, and she just pulls it out immediately without doing anything. She's not prodding me, she's not poking, she's not trying to pull it out, but because I'm not at peace with something within myself, it can be pulled out. And then I'll have a moment where I'll be upset with her, and I'm looking at why I'm like, after it happens, I'm like, I'm not even really that upset.
Totally.
Like with her.
Yeah.
And then I have to apologize and heal it once I see what's happened.
Yeah. But perfect example. Same thing today. I was upset at my assistant because I basically didn't have what I needed to at the time, and I could have equally like done it, like, and I think in that moment it was easier to be mad at him for the situation than to just either accept what was going on or to say that maybe I'm at fault too because I wasn't thinking ahead, and I could have done better in that way too. So I think it's like it's easy to like find somebody to blame for your pain or to distract from your pain for sure. Yeah. But that's the most important thing that I've learned this year is recognizing, okay, my problem with this person has nothing to do with this person. My problem with so-and-so, like another dude, it's like, okay, do you really not like this guy, or are you secretly really scared that he's way more attractive than you and way more charismatic and people are going to like him a lot more? And that's why you're like, you don't like this guy. Like a lot of, like, I guarantee you almost every situation where you put that on somebody else, you can think back and you can look at it and go, okay, what's really going on here? And the second you're able to evaluate that honestly, I think that's where you get the wiggle room to like really soar. No, yeah, my line in my song, Only a Matter of Time, I'm sure that you're hurting inside, but why would you make your pain mine? It's such a real thing. And I know in my life, anytime I've ever hurt somebody or been angry with somebody, it's because I'm not dealing with my own pain 100% of the time. Which, by the way, on the other side of that, is how you empathize with people and you don't take things personally when people throw that pain towards you. Yeah. Because okay, they're probably going through something and this has nothing to do with me. That's why, like, in the 4 Agreements, which is, I highly recommend that book, one of the agreements is don't take anything personally because it really has nothing to do with you. Unless you're like an asshole. Like if you're doing something
That's the
bad.
caveat for everything you say. Like if you're an asshole.
Yeah, exactly. So like, there's obviously different circumstances where that's not the case, but most of the time, if you're driving and you're doing nothing wrong and somebody honks at you, flips you off and cuts you, it's like, dude, that guy's going through a tough day. Yeah. But sometimes you can even take it personally and be like, did I look at him wrong? Or
that happened to me on the way to Utah. I remember there was this. I was going a little fast. I was at like 75 and a 70, or I was like 80 and a 75, something like that. Yeah. And the person was going like 50 and over, and it was this, and they were like flashing at me that I was going too slow, and then they like sped up, and then they like honked at me when they passed, and it was this like middle-aged woman, like, and I had been so triggered, and when I saw who it was, I was like, am I gonna like chase this woman down and get in a fight with her? But what happens is, like, humans, I think, this is why, like, what we do, or like with music and with television stories, humans mirror emotions really well. So if I'm watching a show and someone's getting really angry, if it's working, it's pulling out the anger in me. So when she got crazy road rage with me, it pulled it out of me immediately. And like, thankfully we had like pull over to like take like a bathroom break or something, and I was able to like diffuse it. But it stayed with me. I was like,
Yeah.
man, her energy was really strong because I couldn't get it off of me for a good 5 minutes.
Yeah, it is crazy. That's a great segue into like something I've been really paying attention to lately, and that's how infectious your energy is, and recognizing and owning that. You have to own that because you are affecting everybody you interact with, no matter what, whether you like it or not. Everyone you see is affected by your energy. Some may be less than others. Some may be for the better, some may be for the worse, but no matter what, your energy is affecting them and their energy is affecting you. That's why it's important to recognize who your friends are and what energy they're bringing into your life, because if they're bringing a low energy of, a toxic, that will bring that out in you. It's, it's like 100%. That's human nature. And so that's like a huge thing for me that I recognize. It's like, if I'm getting valet service and the guy who does my car, like, I can make that guy's day that much better by just being a little bit kinder to him, or just like making him feel seen in any way. Mm-hmm. And the other thing too is like that like I said, you said that's infectious. Any energy you have is infectious, and so good or bad, you're really.
And to bring it back to like pain and love and fear, if you're carrying that energy around all the time, it starts to infect other people. Mm-hmm. Like if you're not dealing with your pain and not having compassion with your pain, let's say, and you're like getting I was thinking about in my real own life, like what has been bringing up pain for me recently. And I just started to eat a certain way. Like I just started, I have this goal of the kind of body that I want to develop for the types of roles that I'm focused on. And so it meant cutting out a lot of comfort foods that I'd been eating during the quarantine situation.
Yeah.
And I would just be like going about my business, and then all of a sudden my body would be in this like really agitated, aggravated, angry state. But it was just because it wanted the old food.
Well, yeah.
But then I had to sit with it. I can't make it go away. I'm not going to have the food, but I'm going to be in this painful experience physiologically for however long this thing is going to go on for.
Yeah.
And
so here's the thing. That's so great, because that's where you sort of realize like what our vices, which can mean social media. I mean, it can mean smoking cigarettes. It can mean drinking. It can mean eating fast food. It can mean watching porn.
What is one of your vices, Josh?
One of my vices is TikTok, if I'm being completely honest. Okay. Anytime I'm uncomfortable, I'm on TikTok.
Nice.
For real. Here's the thing, though, is like, you notice if you delete the TikTok app, you are going to find yourself, without realizing it, go into your phone, you're about to click it, and it's not there. Yeah. In that moment, go, what's really going on here? And
why did I come here?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the thing, is once you cut out the junk food, then you realize, oh, I was using junk food to hide from my pain.
I was hiding. I was 100%. I was hiding from so many things that I didn't realize I was hiding from.
But then the thing is, like, it's like whack-a-mole, because I delete TikTok and then I'm suddenly using YouTube to get through my day. Like I'm on YouTube because I have my TikTok app has like a parental restriction on it because it was such a problem. But that's the thing, is you take it away and it's another thing. And that's the thing you have to realize, is like, what are your habits and what are you feeling right before you do that habit? And the thing is, like, we get so used to doing them that we don't even realize what's going on until you take it away. That's why I said, like, that's why I would recommend anybody who's like addicted to social media, try it for literally 48 hours. Just delete it from your phone. And then every time you have the impulse to go, ask yourself, what am I really feeling? Warning, it's going to suck.
100%.
You're going to be like, this is uncomfortable. But you're not hiding from it, and you're allowing it to come up, and you accept it. And then it goes, like you said, you like you said in your Instagram story, where like it leaves you, and then there's more room for other, more pleasant emotions to come up. But the truth is, that energy that's inside of you, that negative energy, will not be let go until you let it go. And a lot of times you hold it in with stories that you keep in your mind of how this person did you wrong, when all you're doing is literally like, you're like stabbing yourself in the stomach over and over again it's like that story is the knife, and you're constantly like reminding yourself of the pain. Like,
yeah, and there are people like that. I'm trying to, like, I've had
I'm
friends.
like that. I have stories in my head that I've been carrying with me in my whole life, and I'm like, okay, but first of all, was it really that bad? Second of all, what use is it that I'm like remembering this all the time? And then once you let go of the story and you accept it and go, that's just how it is, then the pain's no longer stuck by your mental like anchor, like you're holding it down. And then I've just learned that.
No, that's really great, and I think that's really awesome that you're owning like where it's showing up for you. One of my vices, so like I have a couple, and like you said, like I remove one and I tend to gravitate towards the others. And I try to remove all of them at the same time. My life gets really good, but I'm in a lot of discomfort. Like
yes.
Physically, and then whenever I have a space where I don't have something to do, like I just saw your calendar. If I needed to give up all of my vices, I need a calendar like what your next month looks like. Do you know what I mean? Like yes. I need no dead space.
Well, here's the thing too, is there you go. People then become workaholics.
Yeah.
They take away all their vices and then they are addicted to their work. I've been a workaholic because I've been avoiding some pain. But the truth is like, if you're using work to escape your pain, you are not going to be nearly as productive as if you were to deal with that pain first and then work. Like I guarantee you it's better to meditate for 2 hours and work for 2 hours than work for 4 hours straight. Because those 2 hours will be hands down more productive than the 4 hours where you aren't in that state. You know, you aren't like.
But here's a question for you, Josh. Sure. I'm just asking the questions that I think people want to know. Is like, so you're saying you will process your emotion before you work, and you've had a tendency to be a workaholic in the past. But like as a songwriter, I'm curious. All of my favorite bangers are people that are processing their emotion through their music. So is that something that you do, or do you try to process your emotion before you go to the song, before you go to the music? Like where does holding space for your emotions and then using your emotions to write a great song, like what's your philosophy with that for yourself?
Yeah, excellent question. I mean, it changes a lot. For example, my song Only a Matter of Time was written when I was in a very bad place, but I was at peace with it. I was in a really bad place, but I had fully accepted it. And I was basically in like this zone where I was like fully at peace with what I was feeling. And I was really feeling it. I wasn't distracting myself. I was allowing myself to really feel it. And I kind of got that lightning in a bottle thing where I was, I had a session planned in the morning, and the night before had been a really hard night. And in that morning, I was just very vulnerable and open, and I had a conversation with my co-writer before we started writing the song. We talked for like 30, 45 minutes and she had a similar experience, and then we're like, okay, let's do this, and we were able to write the song in 20 minutes, and it was like magic. Then again, there are times where I write songs over 3 months because sometimes it's not really. Honestly, I think that I'm realizing this as I'm saying this. The key is just if you're able to fully face that pain, then you can make the art through it. But the times where I find myself getting stuck is when I know I want to write about something, but I'm sort of skirting around it because I'm afraid to feel it. And I'm like, oh, that's a lot. And it's fear. Again, goes right back down to fear of like me being like, oh, whatever. But I think that ultimately you will always win if you're able to face how you're feeling and be honest about it. I don't think you can go wrong. I really don't. We got this game called We're Not Really Strangers. I'm absolutely obsessed with this game. I would highly recommend it for any friend group or anybody who's trying to have deeper conversations with people or whatever. They actually have a self-reflection pack if you want to do your own thing. They give you a journal and a little thing where you can ask yourself questions every day and answer them. And it's actually really, really helpful because you're able to. It makes you think about things you wouldn't normally think about, and then you're able to process and put them out. Anyway, super recommend. This is not a paid ad, but I'm just a big fan of this game. We're Not Really Strangers. And basically the way it works is there's 3 tiers. Mm-hmm. What's the first level it says?
Level 1 is perception.
Level 1 is perception. So we're going to start with level 1 and ask a question, I think. Yeah. One each,
I think. Yeah. I mean, the way that they say you do it is you stare into the other person's eyes, and whoever blinks first, whoever keeps their eyes open gets to pick the question first. Do you want to do that? All right, he's down. See, he's already done. All right, here we go. All right.
So we just have to stare at each other?
Whoever blinks first,
you blink.
The other person. Well, let's do a count. Let's do it. Like, count it down. 3, 2, 1, open. Like, say that. Okay.
Sure. 3, 2, 1, open. Are we supposed to talk?
I don't think we're supposed to. I mean, we can. Oh, I'm not going to make it.
Well, we're really making it.
Oh, man.
I'm a pro, bro. I could have gone so much longer.
I don't think I was prepared. Okay, so you pick the card first.
Okay. This is very exciting. Ooh. Do I seem like more of a creative or analytical type? Explain.
Well, knowing what I know about you, the obvious choice would be creative. Yes. But you see, I'm thinking about your analytical side now. I'm gonna just be honest with what the perception of you is absolutely the creative side. There is an analytical side to you that people don't see, but we won't get into that on this card.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, definitely the analytical. Yeah, I mean, my secret passion is like being like a manager or like an A&R at a label and like being strategic about like another artist and stuff. Like I love the business side of all of it, which is maybe a shock to some people, but not when it's me. I don't like the business side when it comes to me. Does that make sense?
That makes a ton of sense. Yeah, you have a lot of vision.
Sure.
You have a lot of vision, and not just creative vision. Like you're always putting pieces together as to like, how can something work better? How can I do something bigger that would work better for more people? And you're always I find you analyze a lot of your, like a lot of our questions are you like analyzing decisions that you have to make. A lot of our conversations have been that where you're like, oh, I'm thinking about doing this one big thing, and then we'll like analyze it together, and then you'll walk away with whatever it is you walk away with.
Yeah. I would say I got a healthy balance for sure, for sure.
Okay.
All right, you're up. So you ask one. This is exciting.
Close your eyes. What color is my shirt?
Oh no. Oh no. Oh jeez. Oh boy. I don't even think I can guess.
Oh, well, you have to guess, Josh.
I don't want to guess. I don't want to. How do I not know the color of your shirt?
I don't know, man. This is like one of the litmus tests for like actors when they go audition, is they're like, oh, if I remember the color of my reader's eyes, then it was a good audition. And apparently Josh is bombing this audition.
Oh, this is painful. I feel so bad. I'm going to say brown, but I don't think it's brown.
It's like a muted green.
I pictured you in something like so weird.
I'm really upset by this. I feel like he doesn't see me for who I am.
Wow.
Here we are. So that was round one. We'll do round two.
Yeah, we'll do round two in a bit.
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy. Do I feel like garbage? Oopsie.
So let's bring it to love and fear for a sec, Josh.
Sure.
So like the intention for this is like all love. Let's just make that super clear.
Yeah.
Like this is all love. Like we feel fear about it, but we just want to bring a bunch of love. So like I want two things. I want to know, where have you been run by fear this week, and where do you feel like you were run by love? And then what was the experience like? What was the difference?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, yesterday I did 10 interviews, and it was a really cool day because I have been practicing this whole thing of no fear. That's been recognizing the fear and letting it go. That's the key. That's really the key right now for me and the wave that I'm on. And, it's a perfect opportunity for you to have to face your fears when you are put in the spotlight all day long. You have to be charismatic. You want to have good conversations. You have all this pressure to be this thing. And with that comes a lot of fear that you won't be that thing, that people will hate you, that what are they going to say about you? What are they going to ask that I don't know how to answer? What are they going to, there's all these different fears that come up. 'Cause honestly, like I've struggled with like my self-worth my whole life. Like there's plenty of times where I really don't like myself. And I think that when you're forced to like put yourself out there like that, that'll bring a lot of fear. So long story short, yesterday was a huge day for me because it was one of the first times in my entire life where I was able to be with that fear as it came up constantly. And I was like, okay, there it is. I see you, fear. You have no place here.
Yeah.
I'm good. Everything's good. All love, all acceptance. And eventually it did pass, and I felt so much better afterwards. But I was forced to like face my fears. I love that. Forget the YouTubers. Yes Theory. Okay. Yes Theory. Their whole thing is seek discomfort. And I think that when you live your life and you are forced to face your fears, you face them. Yeah. Otherwise, you when you neglect them, you don't have to face them, and then they stay with you. And so that's the thing, is like I'm trying to see like, how are there ways in my life where I can, in a healthy way, face my fears? Like what do I need to do to like put myself in a situation where I have to face my fears? And honestly, like regular life brings that anyway. Like regular life, you will face your fears all the time once you realize that you're afraid of everything. Like you're like, oh wow, I'm literally afraid of talking in an elevator.
Yeah.
I'm afraid of talking in an elevator.
Oh, that's a huge one.
All of it. It's like, I'm afraid. I have a fear for me, for whatever reason, of when people text me, I'm the worst texter in the world. That's
I can confirm. But
yes.
The only reason I'm also the worst texter. That's actually why I think this works so well, is that when Josh texts me, I try to text him back, and we've gotten a lot better about it recently. But if like something's going on in my life, I don't have this phantom over my shadow, like over my shoulder, saying like, Josh is going crazy because I haven't texted him back, and he thinks I hate him, and he thinks I'm... Because there are people that when I haven't texted back, and this actually decides who's going to stay in my friend group or not, is if you can tolerate the fact that I'm not a huge texter. Like I text for logistics only.
Yes. Yeah. And the thing is, like, most of the time, the reason I don't text back is because of anxiety. It's because I don't know what I'm going to say back. Yeah. And so it's much easier for me to go, I'm going to do that later than I'm going to do that now. And I mean, that's what people do with all their emotions anyway.
Right. So much of it is about fear.
The thing about fear with me lately is that I realized I get so lost in the content of my mind that I don't realize the root of the issue. It's so easy to get distracted by what your mind is saying. So for example, like I said, when I was driving in the car, this example is perfect. I was driving in the car and my mind was like, why is this car going so slow? What the heck? Like what are you doing? You don't know what you're doing. It's saying all this garbage, right? Yeah. And then I took a second and I went, wait a minute, what's really going on? I'm running late. I'm afraid that the person who knows I'm running late is going to be upset because I'm afraid of upsetting people. I'm afraid that she's going to like me less. I'm afraid she's going to judge me. I'm afraid of being late because I don't want to be that kind of guy. But ultimately, that fear at the core drove me to project onto other people this guy not moving in the road, when in any other circumstance, had I not had any rush to be anywhere, it wouldn't bother me at all that this guy wasn't going fast. It has nothing to do with him. It's fear. But like I said, I get lost in the content. You get so distracted by what your mind is saying about this guy should be going faster, which maybe you're right. Maybe he's going too slow, but that's not the real point. Like once you take a second, that's to me like the key out of it. Cause I used to be like, why do I keep thinking this? Why am I so angry at this person? Why am I thinking these things? Why can't I stop thinking? It's like, why don't I stop thinking this thing? And ultimately, that's just more thought. But when you realize the root of it, then you set it free. That's the thing for me.
Yeah, it's like you shared this book, The Untethered Soul, and it does a really good job of creating a visual or a narrative for a person to be able to take a step back and watch their thoughts and realize they are the watcher of the thoughts. They are not the thoughts that they're thinking.
Yep.
And that's so helpful when you're in the middle of something. And like when you're in the middle of a big emotion, to be able to have the presence of mind to be like, wait, okay, I'm going to watch this emotion for a moment. Especially if it's an unhelpful emotion, like all emotions are healthy. But if you're starting to express in an unhealthy way, it's like really great to take that pause and like watch it, and then to figure out like where is it even coming from? Like what am I upset with? Okay, I'm upset with myself for being late, for like not being responsible, and I'm and then you have to give yourself the self-forgiveness and the compassion. And this is all stuff that like my therapist has trained me very well.
Yeah.
And I still fail at it all the time, but
of course we all do.
At least I have the retrospect to look back and be like, oh, I understand why I failed at that.
Yeah.
Okay, for me, let me think here. Where fear? Okay, so the drive. You're talking about this drive is great. Every time I have to do this drive from Utah to California, and like with Eileen, for example, like I'm the only driver, so I'm driving the whole route. And sometimes there's two things that comes up. My ego comes up like wanting to be the man who can drive the entire
right,
trip.
I can make it all 10 hours.
Yeah. So there's that part of me going on.
I know that one well.
And then there's like the other part of me that like knows my limitations and is so scared that I'm not going to be able to succeed in getting us there safely. Like if I fail, we're all going to die. Like she's going to die, I'm going to die, I'm going to wreck the car, my cat in the back's going to die, we're all going to die. Like that's the fear that's going on. And so if we don't leave when I expect us to leave, I will sometimes, in the past it was a lot worse, I've gotten a lot better at it, but I'll project this like anxiety towards Eileen where I'll be like frustrated that we haven't left, and I'll feel like she doesn't understand where I'm coming from because she's not driving. And like, for me, when I get in that car, I'm in this fear state of life and death for the most part.
Yeah.
Like I'm in, like if I make a mistake, it could cost everyone their life. So that's like the fear that's going on in my system before I even get in the car.
Yeah,
and rather than having like the love lead, which would be great, if I could tap into love and be like, hey babe, like I'm experiencing like it's insecurity and this fear that we're not going to make it, and like that my capacity to get us there will not be enough. And it's stressing me out that we're running late, and I feel unseen or I feel unheard in this moment, and it's and I'm vulnerable about like the fact that I think that I could fail us. You know, she can a whole lot more space for that than me being like. Projecting my anger that we're running late.
What's taking you so long? Whatever. No, I just think that's really key that you are able to recognize it and say it in that moment and go, you know what? What's really going on right now is I'm terrified and I am I'm taking that out on you, and that's not fair to you, and I'm sorry. Like that is so key for growth, even to yourself, to recognize, you know what? Calm down, you're good. I'm just freaking out. That's what's going on. That's it. Yeah. It's okay. That's like, but to verbalize that is so crucial, because I really do think the only way you're going to get out of that habit is awareness. That's the only way, because the second you can become aware of it, then you're no longer run by it blindly. Because I can't tell you how many times I've been run by anger in my life without realizing it, you know? Yeah. Awareness is the key to like winning everything in life. Man, you're not wrong. The thing about fear, and you were saying driving, it is a fact that our bodies can't tell the difference between real world danger and our minds. So if you are afraid of anything, if you're afraid of, the group ostracizing you, or if you're afraid of somebody not liking you, in your body, it treats the same thing as if you see a tiger in the jungle. Your body receives that no matter what way. So we are actually living, because of anxiety and fear and the fact that people are always afraid, we are living, our stress levels are so high, and our bodies are, that's why I mean, I don't know, I'm not like a doctor, so I'm not like super qualified to talk about this, but from what I've learned, like that it's not just a mental, emotional thing. It's a real physical thing. They say stress can make your hair fall out. Like there's been a lot of that actually in 2020. And there were a lot of people whose hair was thinning and losing. And I don't know whether that was like a post side effect of having COVID or if it's because of like sunlight. But that was a thing that a lot of hairdressers that I'm aware of were people's hairs were thinning. Wow. Yeah. Year. So there you go. It's like we live our lives in a physical fear, and your body, like that's why people are always so tired, is because their bodies are working overtime to make up for the anxiety that they have, because your body doesn't realize that it's all in your head. It just knows something is wrong, and we need to be fight or flight. You're constantly in a fight or flight mode. And so your body, it really doesn't know the difference between fight or flight from real life danger and fight or flight from, your fear of rejection. Like it doesn't know the difference. It doesn't. Having like tried to talk to a girl in New York City back when I was single, like everything in my body thought I was going to die. Yeah, exactly, dude. For real. Yeah. I mean, like, and that's the thing. You get sick to your stomach. But then you do it, and you get this huge rush afterwards. Because you're like, oh, I like overcame this terrible, like, illogical feeling of something that was imagined, but my body thinks I just slayed the saber-toothed tiger. Yeah, right. by like saying hi to the pretty girl at the subway. Like, totally. I mean, fear dictated my life when I was like, I think I was 7, and I was auditioning for this thing, and it was like an open call thing, and you had to do it in front of everybody. And I define everybody, because I don't know. Sorry, not everybody. It was just like maybe like 100 people, like all the parents and all the other kids auditioning. Okay. And it was like you literally all you had to do is go sign up, sit in a chair, and then they would call you when you were up. And I remember my poor parents were there. I changed my mind every minute. I was like, I'm going to do it. And I get up there and I start bawling, and I was like, I can't do it. I was like terrified, but it's still a real physical fear that I'm experiencing. And all that I'm really afraid of is embarrassment. All that I'm really afraid of is failure. All that I'm really afraid of is that's it. Like that's really it. And like, but it like my little 8-year-old body's entire world was like crumbling. I remember how like crushing that felt, to be that fear and whatnot. It's like we still feel that. Anything you're doing something like new, and like before we did this podcast, there was a part of my body that was like, oh, this is a new experience. So it was
there was a mixture of fear of like doing it wrong. Yeah, just that's what was happening.
Yeah.
But also excitement at the possibility of what could happen if we did it right. And somebody brought this up in one of my old acting classes, that it's possible for you to interpret fear as excitement because it's in your body. It's almost identical as a physiological experience. So if you want to reinterpret a fear that you're experiencing as excitement, it's a much more helpful way of doing the thing you need to do anyway.
Yeah, dude, it's so real. It's the same feeling. The like that, the nerves and excitement. It's the same thing. So if you change your attitude towards it, and you're like, "This is exciting. This is terrifying. Yay! That's so exciting." It actually becomes a really good feeling. You're like, "Wow! Like this is like, I'm terrified. This is amazing. I'm getting chills talking about it right now." It's like if you can turn that fear into excitement, that nervousness, whatever it is, into excitement. You're right. That's cool. Especially like for actors or any musicians or anyone. If you're about to go into an audition room and you're sitting there in your fear, like you have to treat it like, oh boy, I'm getting butterflies in my stomach because this is kind of a cool thing that I care about and this is exciting.
It's
like,
part of what makes me feel alive when I get to do things that I care about. That get like whenever I'm acting for, and you've probably had this too. Whenever I'm acting for an audition or something, and I don't have any butterflies, I don't have any of that because I know like I have such a high level of confidence. And the project is not something that is going to pull more out of me or demand more from me, then I don't get any of the butterflies. And that's usually a sign that I'm going sideways. Do you know what I mean? Or I'm going backwards.
Yeah.
You know, so I need to like make sure that the things that I'm like pursuing in life, or I use acting because that's like my life all the time. But when I'm auditioning for things and I get the butterflies, like I had one this week for like it's a superhero thing that I can't talk about, but it's a superhero thing. Yeah. And I was like, I got the butterflies. I was like, oh, like superhero thing. Yes.
Yeah, but again, you could interpret that as, oh, why am I so afraid? You know, why am I stop being afraid? That's not going to help anything. You're feeling how you're feeling. That's like it goes back to acceptance. You're just not accepting what is. That includes your feelings. You're already feeling what you're feeling. So why are you fighting it? Being like, oh, why am I? It's like, okay, wow, I'm feeling afraid right now. Oh wow, this is really powerful. I'm really scared right now. That's okay, but don't like come at yourself and be like, I think use that fear is what I'm saying. Like accept and embrace that fear and use it to help you in your audition. I mean, it's a very real thing, and I feel like if you can flip that fear on its head, especially in any situation,
you're changing your relationship to it.
Yeah,
you're viewing it as like you have to have a distinguisher between like walking into like the highway, like, oh, I'm gonna walk into the middle of the highway, and because it feels fearful, like no, that's a good fear to have. Like, let's not do that.
For sure.
But
but that's the thing. Here's the thing, though, is like, yes, you're right. I mean, if you burn your hand on the stove, you're not gonna spend the rest of your life afraid of stoves. You're gonna go, I don't put my hand on the stove. I know that now. The fear isn't necessary. You just know I don't put my hand on the stove. Right. Sometimes fear is absolutely essential. Of course, it's primal.
It's a helpful emotion. You just have to be able to distinguish, like, is this helping me, or is the fear like, am I creating something that's not really there? Like,
right.
Like I'll give you the example. Okay, when I talked to this girl in the subway, right? I built this thing up so much. This was like, I don't know how long ago this was. And I remember walking up to her and like, I was like, all right, you're just going to like walk up, like say hi. She was playing like this Simpsons cell phone game or something. And I was going to make like a nice comment about this game that she was playing. And I said whatever I was going to say. Like I said like, oh, hey, like what's that game you're playing? Or like, hey, that's a cool game. And I said something just to open her up, just to see what the vibe was. And then she looked at me and she like didn't speak English. She did not speak English at all. And I remember smiling because I had built up this entire story of like pain and everything. Yeah. And I'm doing all this stuff to myself. Meanwhile, the person over there literally, there's no way I could have ever succeeded in the first place. We don't speak the same language. Yeah. And
see, that's the thing. It's like, how was that fear useful? It's like, really think about, is your fear useful? Yeah.
All it did was like create this really unhelpful physiological experience for like several minutes that I could have just moved on.
For literally no reason. Yeah. And also, like, had you contacted her sooner, then maybe you would have gotten over that sooner.
Yeah. And I will say this for somebody who's dealing with fear right now on something that will, like, you sometimes fear is a guide to the thing that you really need to do, that will move you forward in whatever it is you're trying to do in life, whether it's like you're trying to start that business, you want to write that song, you want to put yourself out there to get into XYZ school. You want to like ask that person out, right?
Yeah.
Like sometimes fear is the guide to the thing that you need to do to grow.
Right.
And the sooner, like the less amount of time you can hang out in that fear and you can go, oh, thank you for showing me that this is the direction I need to go. And you just go there. Like you're quite good at that, Josh. You don't like,
well,
you would kind of get a rush, I find, with certain fears. You kind of get like excited. You're like, oh, I'm going to go like, this is going to be awesome. I'm sure you've had, like, obviously you're sharing experiences where you've had, like, fear, but you have, I think you have some adventure in you around fear, too, which is really helpful.
So that's an interesting, that's interesting that you said that. I went on a trip that's like around New Year's Eve, like after Christmas, with my friend. It was in like a 1970 Ford Chinook, like an old camper van. And we'd been looking forward to it for weeks. I was super excited about it. And the night before we were packing it up and I was terrified and everything in me was like, just don't do it. Just don't go. And I almost guarantee you that had he not been going with me, I wouldn't have gone. I would have talked myself out of it. And I'm so glad that I didn't. Hands down, best trip of my entire life. Yeah. We were in Big Sur. We were camping. Chris over here, Chris the sound guy, my buddy Chris. he came out and like helped us because the van like broke down. All this stuff went wrong on the trip, but we had a rule that we couldn't complain.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah, and literally it was the best trip of my entire life, even though everything that could have gone wrong went wrong.
Ooh, I want this trip. Hold on, that's so good. Wait. Let's go on a road trip with someone that like you want to have a deeper bond with, but the rule is you cannot complain. But obviously, pick the right person.
You can't complain. You can't.
Yes,
you can't complain. You can't place. You can't complain, and you can't say sorry. And so, as a rule, we were trying to like learn how to like not constantly be apologizing for just being for who we are, like stuff that we can't control that we just are. Like, there's no need to apologize for. If you're taking too long, like trying to tie your shoes.
So
like stupid stuff like that. Or it's like, normally you'd be like, sorry. It's like, dude, you're just tying your shoes. Like,
yeah.
So anyway, that was the other rule, but that's not really the point. My point is I was terrified of it.
Yeah.
I went anyway because it wasn't a real fear. It was more of a hypothetical fear. It was like all this stuff that could go wrong. And it's funny because everything did go wrong. Yeah. But the whole time I had this attitude of acceptance. I was like, it's great. We had this attitude of like, this isn't a bad thing. It's just different than what we thought it would be. And so every time something changed on the trip or went wrong, quote unquote wrong.
I'm going to steal that. That's cool.
We were like, okay, this is what's happening. And
this isn't a bad thing. This is just different than what we thought it was going to be.
Yes.
Like that right there is so good.
So anyway, with that attitude, again, best trip of my entire life, but not necessarily because the trip was so spectacular. There were some pretty cool parts of the trip, but I do believe that it was all about our attitude in the whole thing. Like, even we had to wait for the van to get fixed up. And like I said, we slept on the floor outside in a tent. It was freezing cold, like real camping. I know, crazy. People don't do that anymore. No, real camping. And I was freezing the whole time. But the entire time I was like, this is the best trip of my life. I'm so content here. And it was like literally the worst night of sleep I've had in my entire life. Hands down, worst night of sleep I've ever had in my entire life. But one of the best nights I've ever had, because I was just like the whole time, I was just taking it as an opportunity to be like, I didn't shoot. I don't, this isn't my first preference. This is not comfortable in any way, but I accept it and I take the challenge as it is. And after I was able to move past that, just such a wonderful experience and a good lesson and something I need to kind of like keep teaching myself. Cause like, I have that for a week, a spurt of like, face your fears, take on the challenge, do it. And it feels great. And then you get discouraged and you fall in a hole and then you can't get out of it. And it's hard. So I need to sometimes like remind myself of that. But that doesn't make it easy though. It wasn't like the trip was easy. The trip was hard. There was a lot of stuff. We had to like push the van at one point because it was not moving. We had to like pull over 8 times when we were trying to drive 30 minutes because we had to like it had a really bad coolant leak. It was like, but the thing is like, we just had music blasting the whole time. Every time we did it, like, oh, okay, we got to pull over. And we just had a good time. Like, we never once complained. Anyway, so that was like
in there with you who was like down in the trenches with you and going through the same challenges with you, who is not going to complain and he was going to show up, so you're going to show up. Yeah. And he knows you're going to show up, so he wants to show up, and that's really great.
And we had a good conversation before the trip. That was just like no complaining, no saying sorry, and that set the tone for the rest of it because we went, okay, that's how it is. Let's just see what happens, and then it happened. Let's hop on to question number 2.
So I'm going to pick one, and I'll ask you first. Here we go. I'm going to pick from this one. Oh, this is going to be great.
I'm terrified.
What lesson took you the longest to unlearn?
To unlearn?
What lesson took you the longest to unlearn?
I had this belief that I was in charge and had to control everything in my life. And I am still unlearning that and recognizing there's about 10% that I can control. And you bet your ass I'm going to control that 10%. But beyond the 10%, you're wasting energy and time trying to change the weather. You're in charge of I have the problem where when I host a party, by the end of the night, I am just absolutely not during COVID times. When I host a party outside of COVID,
Yeah.
By the end of the night, I'm exhausted because the whole time I've been trying to make sure everyone was okay, everyone was happy, everyone was fed, which is fine. You can do those things, but really the whole time I was trying to. I felt an obligation to make sure everyone had a good time when that's up to everybody individually to do. That's not up to me. And there's so many cases of that in my life, but I just think, that not everything's in my control and not everything needs to be because of me. And like trust in the process, it doesn't all have to be you. You don't have to carry the world on your shoulders, I guess.
That's a good one.
Thanks.
That's a good one. That was a good question.
That was a little...
These are good.
All right, Mark.
Okay.
What part of your life works and what part of your life hurts?
What part of my life works and what part of my life hurts?
It's a very interesting question.
Yeah. I would say the part of my life that works is the part of me that is it's definitely the career side of things that always works whenever I work it. I've figured out how to set my sights on something and methodically get myself there by certain habits that I need to adopt or take away. The area that is always the most challenging for me, yeah, I would say it's relationships, but not just romantic with like Eileen, but also familial or friendships. That part for me, I am always learning, and I feel like I'm behind the curve of what everybody else has figured out. Like Eileen's actually quite excellent at friendship. Mm-hmm. That's like she gets friendship crushes and she wants to hang out with people and she makes it happen and she's so excited about it. I get like excited about friends too, but then the fear will come up and I won't even, like you even were starting to reach out to me. Then I had this moment. I was like, oh, okay, like this could be really fun. I had to overcome a lot of parts of myself that prevent me from connecting with people or making new connections with people in order to even show up for this. So that's the part of my life that I find works the least well is relationship building. That's
so good, dude. And that's so real. I mean, I've been experiencing that same thing and realizing that recently that I have a similar issue of the fear of abandonment and fear of rejection that you don't even realize you have, but it runs your friendships because you kind of hold people at an arm's length. You're afraid of getting hurt by them. Yeah. You're afraid of them leaving you. You're afraid that you're afraid that they're gonna get to know you and then be disappointed. You know, there's all these different things that can go through your head that keep you from being vulnerable. And I think that's in many ways in my life I'm like that, where I am a little bit closed off in that way, and that's something I wish. Maybe that's my answer for what took me the longest to unlearn is my like habit of closing my heart and like not allowing myself to like be vulnerable and get close to people. Like I think that might be a huge thing for me that I've learned recently, really recently. Wow. Like is like, whoa, in every way, like even like right now, like because there's cameras rolling, there's a microphone and you're here and you're here. Yeah. There's a part of me that's like,
there's a percentage of me that is like aware. I mean, because we're in front of cameras all the time. It's aware that the cameras are rolling. This is recorded. I just met Chris today.
Yeah.
I don't want him to think like the worst of me.
Yeah.
But I'm also trying very hard, like to open up to you and to him and to everybody who's listening. And because I think that's the only way that we're gonna make. I feel like when people are vulnerable, it opens up the space for other people to be vulnerable about it.
Well, your energy affects other people. So yeah.
That's like just like to bring it home. Yeah. But okay, so faith and fear, like they both require a belief in something that you can't see or that hasn't happened yet, or an anticipation of something in the future. And you have a physiological response to both, but they change the behavior that you choose dramatically. So that, because I think that, for example, what's something where's an area I've turned fear into faith? So like, okay, so this this audition that I'm excited about, I'm scared that I'm not going to be enough, that I'm going to embarrass myself, I'm going to embarrass my team, everybody who watches it's going to be like, who's this guy and why does he think he's an actor? But then I have to like remind myself, like I have to choose faith. I have to choose like, hey, this is something that just by you wanting to do this so much is a sign that you can and that you're on the right track. And it's not up to you to decide if you look crazy or not. It's your job to commit wholeheartedly over the thing that you want and act as if it's going to happen no matter what.
Yeah, that's key. Yeah, it's interesting, that whole like idea of like thinking about, putting yourself in that position. Like, okay, you close your eyes and you're like, okay, imagine if I was the most successful version of myself. How would I feel? You like start to get that feeling, and that's sort of like the law of attraction, where you attract what you are, and like if you are a low vibration, you attract low vibration things. That's just the reality of it. If you are high vibration, you attract high vibration things. So sometimes when you're not feeling high vibration, you don't have to fake a smile. You don't have to like pretend like everything's great. You need to allow whatever's going on to pass, but then remind yourself of like, it is actually, you literally feel better when you go, you know what am I grateful for right now? I'm grateful for Chris for coming to help us.
Yes.
Like, that's game changer. I'm grateful for you and our ability to just be honest and open with each other. I'm grateful that we are able to have this computer here so that we can keep notes and keep track. I'm grateful that we have this game. As I'm saying this, I feel so much better in this moment. And it's like, wow, you really do have the power to like raise your vibration, and what you dwell on will affect you. So if you dwell on all the drama, if you dwell on all the toxicity of, you're going, oh, this person did me so wrong and they're awful and this because of this. It's like, sure, maybe they screwed you over. Yeah. But the more you focus on it, the more you are becoming like that energy. You're shifting yourself in the lower energy, and then you start to see more of that in your life. Yeah. Cause then you attract more of that. And then you go, see, my life does suck. When you go, oh, my life sucks because of this, and this, your life starts to suck more. And then because your life sucks more, it starts to suck more. And then you're like, see, I told you my life sucked. And then you just reprove it versus being like, okay, no. I love this saying, up to this point, that's the change. Instead of going, I suck or I'm lazy.
Okay.
What you should say is, up to this point, I've been really lazy. No more. I'm not lazy. If you keep saying I'm lazy, you are reaffirming that it. And you are retraining your brain to go, I'm lazy. I'm lazy. All these, I'm stupid. I'm stupid. You say that enough times a day, you believe it. Yeah. Same thing goes on the flip. Sorry, I just got carried away with that.
No, that's great. I mean, you touched on, I think, like, just to dive into some of the goals you just laid out, I think the gratitude energy is like probably the best energy one can tap into when they are struggling to tap into it. And then the other thing is you put stop gaps in place to prevent yourself from diving too hard into bad energy, like the one you had with your friend on your trip. If you're not complaining, then it kind of stopgaps your energy from going down that road. I couldn't decide. Here we go. But
first episode.
Kinks. And then you end up in this place where you're so grateful to have a friend who's willing to go through this journey with you, and you're grateful to be cold, like in a sleepless room. And then you look back on it as like a character building experience. But
right. Well, yeah.
No, go ahead. Josh.
No. I think that's the thing is it's so funny to me, like, this attitude shift that I've had in the last few months, it's not consistent.
Yeah, I was about to ask you about that, because you came into season 2 with a very specific attitude. Do you remember when you were like, you were waking up at 6 a.m., you were meditating 5 a.m. There you go. He was asleep by like 9 p.m., which like Matt and Jason and I always clowned him about, but I also respected it at the same time. He was going to sleep at 9, waking up at 5. You were on a very specific discipline of meditation, and you would exercise every other day.
Yeah, it was wake up at 5 a.m., meditate from 5 to 6, read from 6 to 6:30, and then I'm either at the gym or I am in the roof hot tub while the sun comes up. That was the two different.
But you fell off that, right? You said the last couple of months you were kind of a funk of some kind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay, this is something that I realized the other day that actually just am remembering as we speak is this. I feel like when it comes to like discipline and pain on the scale, it's like as the pain gets worse, the discipline goes down. So if you're like, you know what, I'm not going to eat any donuts. I'm addicted to donuts, but I'm not going to eat them. You can probably go the whole day without eating donuts, but then you see something on Instagram that triggers you, and as that pain comes up, suddenly it's a lot harder to say no to the donuts, and your self-discipline goes way down. Yeah. And so I think the more pain that you're experiencing, the harder it is to have that self-discipline. And I think that you can still have that self-discipline, but the reason I've sort of fallen off of that is there's been a lot of pain like coming up that I'm processing and like releasing, and it's a really great thing, but sometimes it's a lot and it's too hard to handle. Sometimes I can't do it. Sometimes I'm like, I can't do this. I have to distract. I have to do something. Whatever it is. It's like you can only meditate so much, and then sometimes you're like, I can't handle this. Like sometimes I'll sit down and meditate, and 10 minutes in, I get so overwhelmed by this pain that I'm like, well, I need something else and I can't do it. And that's okay. Sometimes you can't handle it. But the main attitude shift that I've had in the last few months is being thankful for everything that happens, and acceptance is first. Awareness and acceptance and gratitude, I would say, are the key, because okay, you're aware that you can always be grateful for a situation. You can find a reason where it can be a positive.
So like one that everybody knows is when you were in the hospital at one point, because you shared that you were in the hospital, right? So like obviously like you had to be in a certain amount of pain to go. No one goes to the hospital feeling like perfectly well. Yeah. So you had to be in a certain amount of pain. So like, were you able to tap into gratitude at that point in time? Like, or is this like an experience where you look back at it and you're like, oh, I could have been grateful, and you weren't able to find it in that moment?
Super interesting.
I'm just trying to bring it to something real,
tangible.
Most people know you've experienced recently.
Sure. That is actually a really interesting thing. I mean, I don't know if I'm supposed to, we can cut this out if it's too much. I showed up to the hospital and they said that if I hadn't shown up within 12 hours, I wouldn't have made it. Mm-hmm. That's pretty big news to hear. And then they told me I was the sickest patient in the hospital. And then they said, you have a 30% chance of survival. And I'm like, okay, I understand. Weirdly enough, I am beyond grateful for that experience. All of it. While I was experiencing it, I was grateful because I was able to recognize in that moment everything that was happening was teaching me. It was teaching me about letting go. It was teaching me about faith. It was teaching me about remaining calm in the midst of like agonizing pain. I was in so much pain, and the entire time I was like focusing my breath and in a state of meditation. And every time I wasn't in a state of meditation, I was 30 to 40% more in pain. I was suffering 30 to 40% more anytime I wasn't in meditation. And it taught me so much about one, like just, how much we take for granted that we're able to all sit here and we're all fine, because when you get a taste of that, like you get a taste of almost losing it all. It really shows you that. I mean, the movie Soul is like the perfect example of that. Like such a great movie. And like it came out, I watched that movie like a couple weeks before that happened. But yeah, weirdly enough, I took every moment of that experience to go, thank you for whatever this is teaching me. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but I'm sure it's happening for a reason. I have faith in that and I trust that. And if anything at all, it's teaching me how to let go. And I'm appreciative of the fact that I am being forced to constantly remind myself, relax, let go, relax, let go. Because the second I didn't, I was in pain. So I said, relax, let go. So yes, I was thankful for it weirdly enough during the experience. That's incredible. Especially after. Wow. Yeah. Pretty weird.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you'd shared some of that with me. I did not know. I did not know that they gave you a percent. They're not supposed to. I don't even think they're supposed to do that.
Well, no, the doctor was whack, man. That guy was. He was like, and yeah, I mean,
they can tell someone. They can tell like your parents that, or they can tell someone.
Well, no, they told. Well, because I had to sign a paper because they had to do a thing. I'm not going to talk about that, but they had to do something, and I had to sign a paper for it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, why do I have to sign the paper for it? And they're like, well, you only have a 30% chance of surviving. And I was like, Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
I was like, okay, I'll sign. I was like, yeah, right here. No worries.
Oh, man.
So yeah, pretty interesting stuff.
I haven't had to face that yet. I'm not trying to face it anytime soon, but like, I thank you for sharing that, because there is something. It's funny how when you are in these extreme situations, you do, if you're paying attention, sometimes you can find the lesson, you can find the good, you harvest the good, you harvest what am I supposed to grow, how can I grow from this, how can I learn from this, what do I need to do to support myself, to love myself through this, how can I be grateful for this, and also that spirit that energy that you're carrying. Like my dad's a doctor too, and sometimes I don't realize how much pain he's seen. He doesn't tell me about the pain that he sees. He'll let it out occasionally and tell me a little bit, and I'd be like, oh, wow, that was just one day in your life.
Right.
But your energy that you're carrying of gratitude and positivity, like I'm sure that the other people are feeding off of that in the hospital. Like the people that are trying to treat you start to pick up on your energy, and then like it starts to infuse everybody else with this sense of belief and faith and stuff.
Wow, I didn't think about that.
I would imagine. I mean, sure, they would like to believe that they're just all like professional and they do the same for everybody, and I'm sure they do. But there is like if I can hug every person in Los Angeles, but if they can all have different energies to the hug. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean that's the thing is, and sometimes it's even on a subconscious level. Sometimes people don't even realize why they gravitate. Excuse me. Sometimes people don't even realize why they gravitate towards certain people.
It's been a long day.
First
folks.
rule in the podcast: yawns are allowed. That's the first rule. You're allowed to yawn. Yeah. We have to keep it in too. You can't cut it. Sorry.
Oh man, I'm about to do it. Like I said, the yawn.
There he goes. You don't get to cut it.
Okay.
All right. Do you think we should hop into 3? Or
I think we should hop into 3. I think we should hop into 3.
Okay. Level 3, reflection. Mark.
Yes.
Ooh. How would you describe me to a stranger? I'm nervous. Yeah, take your time.
I'm gonna pick a. So Josh.
Well, introduce me to Chris. How about that?
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm gonna try. I'm thinking of somebody that like doesn't know you, but is aware of that you are a person in the world. I think like the thing here's how would I introduce Josh? Like, this is Joshua Bassett.
Hi.
This is my good friend Joshua Bassett. He does a lot of great things in creativity and all that stuff, and we're on the same show. But the thing that I feel like people don't know about Joshua Bassett that I would like you to know is that he has this really, really, really big heart. It's about the same size as his like prankster goofy side, and they tend to dance together. Like he tends to do a lot of prankster goofy stuff, but then he'll like want everybody to feel love, and he wants to share love with everybody, and he's looking out for everybody. And I feel like people don't get to see the heart that he is. The big, bleeding, giving, loving heart that's inside Joshua Bassett. And I wish more people got a chance to see it, because it's pretty special. It's pretty special. So that's it. That's what I would say about Joshua Bassett.
Thanks, Marky. Can I tell you what just happened for me?
What happened for you, man?
As soon as you started talking, absolutely shut down. Wall came up. I closed. I was a shell of a man. For whatever reason, that triggered that thing that I was talking about earlier of my fear of like intimacy and fear of vulnerability and whatnot. So anyway,
I'm scared to even like say the stuff that I feel, because I've said this to other people.
Yeah,
people that like are aware of you, that know that.
But it's weird when I'm listening. It's weird. But yeah, that was interesting that I just got that. But anyway, thank you. That was very kind.
Yeah, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I wish I was able to receive it better than I had.
We gotta practice. Right?
Next time, I'm gonna receive that better. Yeah.
Okay.
When we do our eye contact compliments, it'll be good.
You look great right now, Josh.
Oh, thank you, Mark.
That pink is really nice with your cheeks.
Wow,
it's a good look.
Thank you. I really like your new hair.
Oh, thanks.
By the way,
yeah,
like so cool. I don't know when you did that.
Right after the rap, because I was like, I need to look like somebody else.
A new change. Yeah. I get it. And also, I really like the stash. It's like,
thanks, man.
You always got a good like. You're always like. Very crisp, put together.
Guys,
this is a beautiful space.
I'm going to ask him this question.
Also, Chris, your hair is dope. I'm really glad that you're growing it out. Sorry.
Was it?
No,
were you
I'm
like
not
a short
sorry.
hair person before?
Yeah, I used to keep it short a lot. Letting it grow out.
I don't know if you guys caught that, but just then when you were reaching over and I was like talking to him, and then I was like,
The apologies.
I said sorry.
Yeah, you had one earlier too when you hit the microphone.
Oh shoot, I didn't even know that.
But like, you know, if you're apologizing to the audience for like blowing out their speakers, I think that's totally fine.
Yeah,
All right,
yes.
so here's the question that the universe has for Joshua. Oh gosh, okay. What can I help you with?
Calling me out. And I really appreciate somebody who's able to go, and I do this, and people don't always like it when I do it to them. I tend to be, like we said, analytical, but I will like analyze the crap out of myself. I will like constantly be like, you're doing this wrong, you're whatever. And so I tend to notice that stuff in other people, and it doesn't sit well with them. But I want you to know that, like, for example, you said I said sorry earlier, and I was like, I don't even know that I said that. Like, anytime where you're like, I feel like Josh might need to hear this right now, even if he doesn't want to. I'm 100% open for hearing things I need to hear versus what I want to hear. And if I ever am upset with you for you telling me something because you genuinely think I need to hear it, take some space from me and then talk to me in 20 minutes, and hopefully I'll be back to normal. But so my point is, no matter what, I would rather you tell me things I need to hear than tell me things I want to hear, or be afraid to tell me things that you know I should probably hear.
You got it, man. You got it.
Sorry, yeah, just give me 1 second. Totally, fuck, I did it again. I said sorry. I'm doing normal.
You know,
things.
like, I don't know if it's the Canadian lover in me, but like,
Sorry?
Yeah,
sorry. The sorry thing didn't seem to resonate.
Sometimes, well, you know what it is? Yeah, I'll tell you what it is. It's like, the complain thing works for me a lot. Sorry is such a useful tool in my relationship with Eileen that I cannot imagine a world where it's taken off of the table, because it's able to create the space for healing so much.
Well, yeah, I think what I meant by sorry is, like, again, when you're apologizing for just being, like,
for existing,
yeah, sometimes it's like for example, if I were to like try to go walk past here, and Chris, you might be inclined to go sorry. It's like you were literally just sitting there, and I was, you know, like, I feel like that's a tendency,
right? Well, but if you say something like "excuse me" or
that's totally
that's
cool.
Different, or "sorry, I bumped you there."
Yes,
like
of course,
sorry is such a useful tool that I find I am awful at using.
Interesting.
and you know, okay, so here's one, like, in my relationship, like, you know, if you ever feel like you're right about something, but you still have done, you know, you've done something that could have been you could have done it better.
Sure.
It rubbed the person the wrong way. It wasn't what you intended, but you did hurt their feelings in some shape or form.
Yes.
Even though you didn't intend to do it, saying sorry can really, like, open up the space for them to feel the healing. And so that for me is like a little hard for me I could never take sorry off the table, because in fact, I need to get better at, like, being comfortable saying sorry for other people's needs that aren't my own. Sometimes, a lot of time, I have to say sorry that in ways where, like, I don't fully see it. Like, but I have to find my way to seeing it through their eyes, so that I can say sorry, so that they can experience some kind of healing. And I only do this with people that I really care about. Like, I don't do this for everybody. There are plenty of people that, like, want to have a problem with me, and they're expecting it. And the sorry is not coming because, like, I don't feel as deserved, and I feel like they're holding something over me, and the energy is not good. But, like, if I want to have a healed relationship with this person, or somebody, I will say sorry. Or like if you're hurting, I'm sorry you're feeling like that. You know what I mean? Like, it's just something that's such a
No, I agree. Yeah, I hope that's not misconstrued. Yeah, you're right. It is super important. I think that's actually a great reminder of something that I've realized recently. I get pretty carried away in being right, quote unquote right, or being in the right, or being, like, justified in what I do. It's like, sure, yeah, there's probably a perfectly good explanation for what you've done, but I love the saying that I can't remember. It's like impact outweighs intent. And it's like, look, yes, you're not responsible for how people react to everything you do. You're not responsible for a lot of that. But if you're able to see, look, I really didn't mean to hurt your feelings. You are hurt because of something I did, and I wish that wasn't the case. I wish you didn't have to hurt because of me. There's nothing I can do to change it, but I genuinely wish I could alleviate that suffering for you. Let's say somebody doesn't text you back. normally that would probably not be a big deal. You might wonder, I wonder why they didn't do that. And then you might be like, you might take it personally, whatever, but probably won't have a lot of pain with it. Let's say most of your life you've experienced people ghosting you and abandoning you and leaving you. You have all that pain stored up. Becomes this vat of pain. Yeah. And then when that happens, it triggers all of the pain. So you're feeling all of that at once. Mm-hmm. That's why people have such big reactions to little things. Yeah. It's not about that little thing. It's about all the little things that they've stored up in that category. They get triggered whenever they feel that emotion. They're carrying all that weight.
I forget where I've heard the word, but I think what you're talking about is called like a pain body.
Eckhart Tolle, baby.
There it is, yeah.
Boom. Yeah. He talks about that in A New Earth, also a great book. Shout out to Chris Casey. We were book buddies for that one.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. That was the book that started it all for me. It really... Yeah.
New Earth started it. Doesn't he have two? He has
Power
of Now. That's the one.
Power of Now and New Earth. Yes, he talks about the pain body. Exactly. It's an accumulation of all the pain that you've stored in your body.
But that pain body is specifically around abandonment or a feeling of not being being there for, like not being enough for someone. And then anytime you see that out in the world reflected back at you, it gets triggered if you're not aware of it.
Exactly. Yeah. And so then, all the experiences in which you haven't faced that you were feeling this pain of abandonment, either you haven't faced or you haven't accepted. Because sometimes people face it, but in reality, they're just trying to like repeat the story in their head, but they're not really just accepting it. But anyway, sorry, I just had to clarify that. But it's all that at once. And that's why people all the time, like it happens a lot in families, I think, when something really small will trigger a massive reaction. Yeah. And it's like, that's not justified at all. All I did was I stole your toothbrush,
Yeah.
But the reality, somebody might be going through all this other stuff.
But for them, it's like, if it's your big sister, your little sister, it's like, you always got first choice of everything. I never get to have anything that's mine. Like,
exactly. Exactly. It's all those experiences triggered at one moment. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally. So I think that's the thing people notice a lot in families. And I'm sure
you see it a lot when you date someone. Like, you can see it, like every partner I've had, if I go to their family, I see how my girlfriend became what they became whenever I meet their mom and their dad. And I watch the dad and the mom have the exact same conversation I'm having with them on a regular basis.
Yes, that is trippy. That is pretty trippy. You're like, whoa, yeah.
I was like, okay, you've got a thing going on here. And now that I understand what's happening, I can I don't take it personally anymore.
Yes.
I'm like, oh no, this has nothing to do with me. This has been here before I came on the scene. It's just I'm the conduit by which you are going to work through your stuff.
Thank you guys so much for listening. This is really special. I really want to do this again.
Yeah, we should do it again. We've got a lot of good topics we could go down.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of... It's just fear, man. That's it. That's the thing. Just let go of fear. Run towards love every time. That's it.